Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we are doing a really amazing wrap-up because I read so many books this month, and I really hope I can continue on for next month because next month, April, is the Owls Readathon, and I'm supposed to read as many books as I read this month as next month. So, let's dive on in. Now, while I normally try to do my wrap-ups in order as when I read them, this month is a little bit different because I actually was sent, they emailed me a copy, a book to review. It is called My Friend Clay, and Clay is just a cute little short story poem book. It's a children's book. Essentially, it's like, don't bully kids. It's okay to be different. And they messaged me on Instagram asking, hey, do you want to review this book? And I was like, yes, of course. I'm always open to review books. And they emailed me a copy, and I'm like, oh, this is like actually really cute and adorable. And I mean, as long as you don't stare at the images for too long, because I think that's the way with any art. If you stare at something for too long, it starts to get creepy. But I really think it was like, most of all, it was just really nice for them to reach out for me. And so I read that. It was all nice and adorable and cute. And so that was, even though it was like the 13th book I've read this month, I'm talking about it first because they did reach out to me, and I'm like, I'll give them a mention. Okay, so from here on out, everything I read is in order. Now, I did have spring break in the middle of the month, so I took all the books that I had read and brought them back to California. So that means I don't have most of the books here to hold up and show you. I do have some, just not most of them. And I did listen to quite a number of audiobooks this month, so pictures are going to be right here, okay? Okay. Now, the first book I finished this month, I did not start it this month, I think I started last month, was Jabberwocky and Other Nonsensical Tales. This is one of the Lewis Carroll's poem collection. I really suck at reading poems, you guys. Like, I do not connect with poems at all. I don't rate poetry books simply because of this fact. I picked up this book because it was connected to the Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. It was cute. It was nice. I skimmed through most of the poems though, so just shove that off, okay? Now, for the first book I started and finished this month, it is, now I actually have to read this because it's quite a long title. For Magnus Chase, Hotel Valhalla's Guide to the Norse World. Your introduction to deities, mythological beings, and fantastical creatures. This is kind of the guidebook that is connected to the Magnus Chase universe. I love Magnus Chase. It is such a good series. So, I mean, I saw this. It was on sale, and I'm like, I'm getting this one. Now, again, I didn't really want to rate this one because it's not. Like, how would you rate that? Like, really, it's not a constructed story. Though, it did have really interesting perspectives. Like, it wanted to tell the story of Thor, so they dragged in Thor's kid to tell that story, and it was cool, and it was nice, so I didn't rate it, but I enjoyed it. The next book I read was The Book Jumper. I read this for a class assignment, which was judging a book by its cover. I did a whole reading vlog. I was really enjoying this book. It did not look like a book I was going to enjoy. I was like, oh, it's just going to be one of those, like, romance disguised as a fantasy. And I was kind of just reading it because I had to for my assignments. And then I got really invested and I was really enjoying it. And then the ending really, really bothered me. So, I mean, if you cut out the last 100 pages, this is an amazing book. But the last 100 pages exist, so, I mean, I give it a 4-star. I'm kind of leaning more towards a 3 right now because that ending really did, like, kind of destroy the book for me. But, I mean, it was cute. It was nice. I liked it. Now, the next book I read was Percy Jackson Book 2, Sea of Monsters. I am finally getting caught up on my Percy Jackson books. This one was good. This one was enjoyable. I rated it 5 stars. It was really cool because of the way they developed off of, like, the first book, and then they brought it into a new one, and it was just, it's book 2. I mean, and it's Percy Jackson, so I'm sure I don't need to talk about this too mumuch. I have a lot of books to get through, so I'm trying to keep these reviews short. 5 stars. I liked it. Yay, whoop-de-doo. Now, the next book I read, I was reading it before spring breaks. I was talking to one of my roommates. I was in her room just laying on the floor, and I was like telling her, I was on chapter 2, and I looked up and I'm like, Lauren, I think this is my new favorite book. I love Shadow of the Fox, and I have a full review on it coming up, just don't worry about that. I love that book so much, and I'm just like, okay, for the record, I grew up on anime and manga. I'm very well versed in Japanese mythology and terminology, so my biggest problem with this book is the fact that it takes time to explain Japanese mythology and terminology. Okay, I get it. Your average reader isn't really going to know what an onin is, and they have a little glossary at the back of the book saying, hey, here are the words, here what they mean, here's how you pronounce them, and I am just it was great for me because I knew everything, so I just kind of skimmed through that part. I love this book so much. Okay, so I really should probably explain this one to you because this is the first book on this list that you guys probably don't know much about. So we follow this character, Yumiko. She is a half kitsune, which is a spirit fox. Japanese believe that if a fox lives long enough, it becomes a spirit fox, which is a kitsune. They have magical abilities, can transform into pretty ladies, and set fire to things with their spirit fire. That's kind of general knowledge you should probably know. It's explained in the book, but again, I went into it knowing. So we follow this girl. She is half kitsune, and she was raised in this temple. All the monks were like, okay, this kid just showed up. She's obviously half demon. We can't really send her out into the real world, so they took her in. And the thing about this temple is it protected a piece of this magical scroll. Now there's a legend in this land saying, hey, every 1,000 years or so this dragon will appear and will answer the prayer of anyone who holds this scroll. The scroll got torn apart and split into different temples, so it's hey, you protect this half or protect that half. The temple Yukino lives at was attacked, and she was tasked with protecting the piece of scroll that the person who was attacking the temple was after. And so she's okay, I'm going to go to this other temple who has the other half of the scroll and say, we kind of broke. Can you, protect yours better? And as she's exiting her temple, as the temple is being attacked, she runs into Tatsumi. Tatsumi is a demon slayer. He comes from the Kage clan, which means Shadow Clan. And he's, in charge of getting this piece of the scroll that he believed this temple to have. He doesn't know that Yukimo has the other half of the scroll. He thinks that she's going to lead him to the scroll at this temple that she's going to. So they're kind of using each other, but it's mutual beneficial. And it follows a traveling story, it's their journey from Temple A to Temple B, who they meet along the way. I love it so much. It really does have some of those Journey to the West vibes where you meet people along the way and they join your party. It's morality is questioned, your backstory is questioned. Yukimo is really naive and she's honest because she was raised in the temple, which is do good things. And so when she's presented with situations, she wants to do the childish and naive things, while Tatsumi, the demon slayer, whose sword is possessed, mind you, that is an important part later in the book, he's the fastest way to get through these people is to kill them. Yukimo is the fastest way to get through them is to be nice to them. So, I really enjoy it. I love the characters. I knew from chapter 2 this was going to be one of my favorite books. I was right. I love it so much. And of course, 5 stars. So yeah. Again, a full review is coming for this. So that was just a quick rundown. I will go through everything I loved about it next week. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's next week. So yeah. The next book I read was book 3 in the Percy Jackson series, The Titan's Curse. And again, we're getting into the series, so we can't talk about much. It was really enjoyable. I can understand why this is such a favorite series for so many people. I'm really getting into it. And it's so cool, getting to watch the characters develop. Because you're seeing these characters, go through their time. And it's just, I love it so much. You get to see them grow up. They're not the same kids as they were in book 1, even now, which we're only on book 3. Again, 5 stars. I love it so much, and moving on. The 7th book I read this month was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I listened to this on an audiobook back on a road trip from California to my university because, hey, it was a fairly long drive, and I went with my mother, and so we were we need an audiobook to entertain us, so we picked out this one. I knew so many people loved this book, and I wanted to know why. And I love it so much because these characters are real. You forget that the story that you're listening to or reading is made up. Honestly, that's the best compliment I can give to this writer because I kept having to remind myself, you can't go watch Evelyn Hugo's movies because Evelyn Hugo isn't real. And I do want to talk about the fact that this does have bisexual representation in it, and it does have lesbian representation, it does have gay representation. It really delves deep into the consequences of Golden Age Hollywood and what it does to the actors, because Evelyn Hugo was born Evelyn Herrero. She was Cuban, and when she moved to Hollywood, they changed her name because they couldn't let a Cuban girl on screen. No one would go see those movies. And so it really delves into like what Golden Age Hollywood was like behind the screen. So I loved it so much, and my mother, she was really enjoying it, but it took a while for her to figure out what her actual opinions were on it. And the best compliment she could give was the fact that it stuck in her mind, which I think is amazing. So, I mean, if a book can stick with you, it's done its job. So yeah, 5 stars. The next book I read was Serpent's Secret. This is the first book in a middle grade series. It follows an Indian girl who realizes she is an interdimensional demon slayer. Unfortunately, no one told her that. So this girl is raised in our world. She's like, oh, cool, yay, I'm 12 years old, I'm off to do an adventure, yay! And then stuff happens and her parents disappear. And then 2 princes show up from another dimension saying, hey, you're a princess, we need to take you back to our dimension so things don't break, I guess. And it's such a good book. I gave it 4 stars. It was really cool. It was really cool. The thing about it, though, that it doesn't explain it right away. It's like, obviously, this main character, the princess, is not related to these 2 princes, but you don't know where this princess, like, what her kingdom is. It's explained later in the book, but it's still, like, I really enjoyed it. Like, this is a series. I do want to continue reading the series. And I just think it's great we're having some Indian representation. Again, it focuses a lot on that mythology and culture. You might hear and read a lot of words that most people aren't entirely familiar with. It does do a great job of explaining that because we are seeing this from a point of view of a character who's like, this is a new dimension. Like, she was raised with these stories, but no one bothered to tell her, like, yeah, that's a real thing. These demons are real. This book also deals with the idea of being a half demon. It deals with like what happens when your parents might not be the most respectable being. So I think it was such a cool concept to delve into, and again, I will gladly continue this series. I just realized this was actually one of the books I have, so I didn't need to. I like this. It was cool. I liked it. This was actually, fun fact, this was the book I took to Disneyland with me. So when you're standing in line, bring a book with you. The next book I read is This Book is Gay. And as you can tell, I annotated it. The thing is, when I start annotating something, I don't stop. I don't really have, like, every paragraph has some sort of line drawn in it. It's color coordinated too, like, yeah. So every chapter is like its own color, and it's just like, I really enjoyed reading this book. Like, actually, like, it deals with a lot of things that nobody bothers to tell you. I feel like that's a theme this month, actually. It's like, it has a whole chapter based off of sex education and the lack thereof in school, especially when regarding anything other than a straight couple. It deals with history, and it's such a really interesting book. It's designed to be read by everyone, whether you are coming out, whether you are the parent of someone who just came out. It has really everything you need for sexualities, and it does deal with transgender and gender identity in this book, but that's not really the focus. As you can tell, this book is gay. It's very much focused on being gay. So yeah, I gave that book 5 stars. It accomplished what it wanted to. It was an interesting read. I wasn't bored, and clearly I had no problems focusing. The next book I read this month is Are You Alice Volume 7. This is manga. I don't rate mangas. I am just in love with this series so much, and it's always so hard to explain, but essentially it's like it follows Wonderland after Alice left. And the White Rabbit is tasked with bringing people from our world into Wonderland, and the White Rabbit gives them a name and a job, and you have to abide by this job. And if you decide not to, you become a regret, and then someone else is brought in to take your place as this person. So all these characters have had multiple people take over their roles since Alice left. Like, the Queen of Hearts isn't even a female in this book. That's how many times, like, the Queen of Hearts has been replaced. And so Alice in this book is a guy, and he is the 89th person to take over the role of Alice, and the White Rabbit was not the person who brought him in. Alice snuck in on his own and took the name for himself. And his job is to kill the White Rabbit and to end the game. Like, yep, I love this book. It is amazing. There's only 12 volumes in this, and I'm reaching the end, and I'm not ready for that. The next book I read was Liza de la Clamora. This I listened to on audiobook. I loved it so much. Like, I love a good thief story. And this is just so interesting. It's the first in the General Ambassador series, and I do plan on continuing the series. I gave this book 4 stars, mainly because the first half really dragged on, and then there were some parts of like the con that they were pulling that seemed really elaborate, and like there was no way like this could have gone as perfectly as it did. But it was such a good story, like it seemed incredibly convincing, like all these characters could exist, and it was just so much fun. I like really liked it. The next book I read was Are You Alice, Volume 8. I just explained this to you. This one follows Alice as he figures out what the land through the looking glass is like. If you guys read Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, you know that the sequel, Through the Looking Glass, Alice becomes a queen almost. And this is kind of like Alice realizing, hey, there's another land with different rules that I could go to. What is it like there? And then the next volume, I haven't read it yet, but I'm assuming it's going to follow up on the idea of, do you continue living in Wonderland, or do you move into the world of the Looking Glass? The next book I read was 9th Grade Slice, Book 2 of the Chronicles of Vladimir Todd. I gave this 4 stars, and I think the main reason I did that was because it really dragged getting to its point. The first book introduces the concept of Vladimir Todd. He is the first vampire to ever be born of a human mother and a vampire father. That shouldn't be possible. He exists, though. There's some problems. So, this book, in the first few chapters, it introduces a slayer, and then we kind of forget about that slayer. Like, he's not really mentioned. Like, yeah, it's a threat brought up to Vladimir, like, hey, a person's coming after you, and then he just kind of forgets. Like, there's school drama going on, and then there's this other drama going on, and he has to go on a training trip to, like, figure out, like, can he have vampiric powers? So, it really, like, it's the middle felt really out of place for me, so it was good, it just struggled to make its point. But I mean, it was enjoyable, I liked it. So the next book, I listened to an audiobook, and it is Carry On. This is like the 3rd time I've reread this book. I love it so much. Again, I gave it 5 stars again because it's just so good. I really like this book, okay? I really like this book. It follows Simon Snow, the worst chosen one to ever be chosen, and his fight against the Humdrum, who is this strange creature. They don't really know what he is, that has the ability to suck magic from the atmosphere, so no magician can live there or perform magic in that area ever again. I love this book so much, and it's just the fact that, like, there's such good queer representation, and it's such a good magic story. It's like everyone's always saying, oh, Harry Potter is so straight and white and cis, and I'm like, guys, read Carry On. It's a magic school with a chosen one fighting against something evil, but it's not cis, white, and straight. Actually, I don't know if there's any transgender characters. I don't think there is. Okay, it might be a little bit cis. The final book I read this month, and guys, let me just say, I found a new favorite book. Crooked Kingdom. I've been putting off reading this book for so long, and I read it, and I'm like, wait a minute. This book is amazing. So 5 stars. My most favorite book of all times now, and I immediately started rereading Six of Crows as soon as I finished this book, and I'm just obsessed with it so much, and I finally have like an OTP again. It's been so long since I've shipped 2 characters so hard, and there's chemistry in this book for them, and I'm like, guys, it exists. The ship has sailed, and it has cannons. Like, I love this book so much. It is the follow-up to Six of Crows. It follows the band of thieves after their impossible heist. Something went down during that heist, and so this follows the aftermath of it. And it's so good because you get to see the consequences, and you get to see how the characters have grown in such a short amount of time. And it's just, I love it so much. I love it so much. And like, I wasn't prepared for this book to end, and it's so good. I love it. It's just, Guys, I just love it. And then when I finished this book, I could not stop smiling. Like, that's how good this book was. I read 16 books this month. How? How is that even possible? Like, a few months ago, I could barely struggle to read 3, and now I read 16. So, it was a great month. It was all 4 and 5 stars. It was amazing, and hopefully next month we'll follow up with that. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you liked this video or know any of these books and want to talk about them with me, leave that down in the comment section down below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.